Good evening. The 2024 United States presidential election will be remembered as a pivotal moment in American history. It was a contest that captured the nation's attention, not just for its political stakes, but for what it revealed about the country itself. The campaign trail was long and often contentious, reflecting a deeply divided populace grappling with questions about its future direction, its identity, and its place in the world. As the nation headed to the polls, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation and anxiety. This wasn't merely a choice between two candidates, it was a decision about the very soul of America, with profound implications for every citizen. The race culminated in a showdown between two prominent figures in American politics, former President Donald Trump for the Republican Party, and sitting Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democratic Party. Each candidate presented a starkly different vision for the country. Donald Trump ran on a platform that echoed his first term, emphasizing an America First agenda, economic nationalism, and a promise to challenge established political norms. On the other side, Kamala Harris campaigned on continuing the policies of the previous administration, focusing on social progress, economic equity, and strengthening democratic institutions. The choice before voters was clear, and the ideological divide was vast. Ultimately, after a hard-fought campaign and a day of intense speculation, the American people made their choice. Donald Trump was declared the winner of the 2024 presidential election, securing a return to the White House. His victory was not a landslide in the popular vote, but a strategic win built on mobilizing his core supporters and making crucial inroads with new demographic groups. The outcome sent shockwaves through the political establishment and signaled a significant realignment in the American electorate. The results challenged long-held assumptions about voting blocs and demonstrated a shift in the nation's political landscape. The election's importance cannot be overstated. It was a contest that forced Americans to confront uncomfortable truths about their society. The results provided a clear, if complex, snapshot of a nation in transition, with demographic and cultural currents pulling the country in different directions. The campaign itself was a mirror held up to America, reflecting its anxieties, its hopes, and its deep-seated divisions. Understanding how and why the country voted the way it did is essential to understanding where America stands today, on this day, July 22, 2025, and where it might be headed next. We need to look at the facts and the numbers. When we dig into the numbers, we see this election was defined by surprising and significant shifts in voting patterns, especially among minority communities. The Democratic Party's long-standing dominance with these groups showed clear signs of erosion. Among Hispanic voters, a dramatic change occurred. Kamala Harris won this group by a narrow 3-point margin, 51% to 48%. This is a stunning departure from 2020, when Joe Biden carried Hispanic voters by 25 points. Much of this shift was driven by new Hispanic voters who favored Donald Trump by a wide margin, suggesting a powerful realignment is underway within this fast-growing demographic. Support for the Republican ticket also grew substantially among other minority groups. For black voters, Donald Trump nearly doubled his support from 8% in 2020 to 15% in 2024. While Kamala Harris still won the vast majority with 83% of the vote, the movement was notable, particularly among black men, 21% of whom cast their ballot for Trump. A similar trend was observed among Asian American voters, where Trump's support jumped from 30% in 2020 to 40% in 2024. These figures point to a fracturing of traditional voting coalitions and a new complexity in American politics that both parties must now navigate. The gender gap also told a compelling story. Men favored Donald Trump by a solid 12 points, while women backed Kamala Harris by 7 points. However, a key change happened with men under 50. This group was nearly tied, a significant gain for Trump compared to 2020 when they favored Biden by 10 points. Looking at where people live, the urban-rural divide deepened. Rural voters overwhelmingly supported Trump by a massive 40-point margin. In contrast, suburban voters, who were crucial to Democratic victories in the past, only slightly favored Harris by 4 points, a much smaller margin than in the previous election cycle. When it comes to voter behavior, the turnout was robust, with 65.3% of the eligible population casting a ballot. This election saw Americans utilize various methods to vote. The numbers were almost evenly split between traditional and newer forms of voting. About 40% of people voted in person on Election Day itself. Meanwhile, 31% chose to vote in person during the early voting period, and another 29% voted by mail. This distribution shows that the voting habits that became widespread during the pandemic have persisted, creating a new normal for how America participates in its democracy. Beyond the political horse race and the demographic shifts, the 2024 campaign season exacted a significant and measurable toll on the mental well-being of the American public. The constant barrage of charged rhetoric, political advertisements, and contentious news coverage created a climate of sustained stress and anxiety for millions. A study released just this month found that a staggering 17% of U.S. adults, that's roughly 45 million people, reported experiencing worse sleep during the peak of the campaign. This wasn't a partisan issue. The stress of the election cut across party lines, affecting Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike. The impact was particularly acute for the nation's youth. Another recent study from July 13, 2025, focused specifically on young adults and uncovered a troubling connection between exposure to election news and mental health challenges. Researchers found that for this group, the stress and negativity associated with the political cycle were directly linked to a higher risk of developing symptoms of depression and anxiety. This suggests that the heated nature of modern political discourse is not just creating a divided nation, but is also potentially harming the psychological health of the next generation of American leaders and voters. This phenomenon of election-related anxiety is not entirely new, but the intensity felt during the 2024 cycle appears to have reached a new peak. The deep personal and emotional investment many Americans had in the outcome, combined with the 24/7 news cycle amplified by social media, created a pressure cooker environment. Many people felt that the very fabric of their society was at stake, leading to a state of high alert that lasted for months. This prolonged stress has real-world consequences affecting relationships, workplace productivity, and overall quality of life long after the last ballot was counted. The candidates themselves became central figures in this national drama, often embodying the sources of both hope and fear for different segments of the population. The relentless focus on personality, combined with the amplification of conflict and division, left little room for nuanced discussion or compromise. This environment made it difficult for citizens to disengage, even when the news was causing them distress. The campaign's impact on mental health serves as a stark reminder that the consequences of our political battles extend far beyond the ballot box, seeping into the most personal aspects of our daily lives. In the final analysis, the 2024 election was more than just a contest for the presidency. It was a reflection of a nation undergoing a profound transformation. The victory of Donald Trump, powered by a reconfigured electoral map and shifting demographics, has inaugurated a new and uncertain chapter in the American story. The results have forced a major reassessment within both political parties. Republicans must now consider how to build upon their new, more diverse coalition, while Democrats face the urgent task of understanding why their traditional messages are no longer resonating as strongly with key segments of their base. The most significant takeaway from this election is the undeniable evidence of political realignment. The dramatic shift among Hispanic voters, coupled with growing support for the Republican Party among Black men and Asian Americans, has shattered long-standing political assumptions. These changes signal that voters are increasingly motivated by a complex mix of economic concerns, cultural values, and a desire for a different approach to governance. The traditional labels and voting blocs that once defined American politics appear to be losing their predictive power, replaced by a more fluid and less predictable electorate. The election also highlighted the enduring and deepening divisions within the country, not just politically but culturally and geographically. The chasm between urban and rural America grew even wider, and the educational divide between college-educated and non-college-educated voters became more pronounced. These splits represent more than just policy disagreements. They reflect fundamentally different ways of seeing the world and America's role in it. Bridging these divides will be one of the most significant challenges facing the nation in the years to come, a task that falls not only to political leaders, but to every citizen. Ultimately, the 2024 election was important because it laid bare the changing face of America. It was a loud and clear message from the electorate that the old rules no longer apply. The results have set the stage for a period of political recalibration, where both parties will be forced to adapt to a new reality. The questions raised by this election, about identity, community, and the future of the American dream, will continue to shape the national conversation for years. How the country answers them will define its path forward in a world that is constantly changing.